Shabbat Shalom. I have been really enjoying fall this year, the autumn. I kind of can't stop talking about it. Every time I see these beautiful leaves, I have to say something like, wow. And I know that I'm not the only one because in the Parashat class this week, multiple people's update about their week. How was your week? Was something like, wow. And really specific details about the leaves, too. The contours of the leaves and the contrast with the sky and the way they just seem illuminated from within. And it's been amazing. And also, as I've been just noticing my experience of thinking that the fall is so beautiful this year, I've noticed that sometimes it also hurts. Do you know that feeling where it's so beautiful it hurts? Or like it's so precious that there's something painful there? It's like because I don't want it to end. In those moments, I feel myself like, oh no, it's already going. And then I'm actually suffering. I'm not enjoying the fall. There's like some real suffering that's happening. And it's because I just don't want to accept what is, which is the nature of, change always in the world. And I did find that the more I was able to actually notice that was what I was doing, I was able to kind of come back to just a sense of awe and wonder with a little bit less of that tightness. But we have in this week's Parsha, Avram dealing with some similar questions here of how to navigate the constant nature of change. And sometimes he navigates it in a way that's quite beautiful and striking, and sometimes he needs to learn a little bit, as he does in this week's Parsha. So I'm going to bring two examples of Avram. The first one is right at the beginning, Lekh. God says, change your life, change everything, and he just does. He gets all his people together, he goes to the land, and then he's there. Right? The language is amazing. It says, and they went out to go to the land, and then they came to the land. Like there's no drama there. It's just like they have to go, and then they go, and he does it. But then they do have to leave. It's like they wander around. They haven't even settled in the land yet. And the next thing that happens is there's a famine in the land, and Abraham goes down to Egypt. Abraham and Sarai go down to Egypt. I have a couple questions. Number one, what was God's plan here? I don't know exactly how God works, but you could have waited until after the famine to invite Avram to go down to Egypt. You could have not had the famine. I don't know, but what a striking thing that Avram is brought to the land just in time to have to leave. I'm also wondering what Avram is thinking and feeling. Here he has this goal. He sets out to reach his goal. He reaches his goal, and then it's taken away from him in that moment. Was he upset about it? Was he rolling with it? Generally, when I'm looking for the interior world of a character, I turn to Midrash. Midrash is this treasure trove of stories of the Jewish imagination of filling in all of the different blanks of the Torah. The Torah only gives us so much information about what's going on, and Midrash is just all the stories surrounding it that try to fill in some of the blanks of what might be happening here, including the kind of interior world, the emotional world of characters. So I took a look into Bereshit Rabbah, which is a pretty ancient text on this book of Bereshit, and sure enough, it really tells us what Avram was feeling. It says, when Avram left the land, famine confronted him, but he did not complain and he did not become indignant. Rather, he descended to Egypt to sojourn there. He did not complain and he did not become indignant. And then also strikingly that it just adds the next part of this line because it's drawing our attention to, he went to lagur sham is the word, to sojourn. It's a temporary word. So Avram also wasn't like, I guess I live in Egypt now. He wasn't rolling with it that much. There was a sense still of some kind of faith that he would return to this place. This capacity to kind of move with what was happening while still kind of staying true to who he was. We have another moment where Avram is not so steady in a way. This is a little bit later. God has been promising Avram all sorts of things this entire time. Promising him offspring, promising him the land. And Avram, for the most part, has just been kind of taking it in and doing what God is telling him. There's a moment that God promises him offspring, He says, your offspring are going to be as numerous as the dust of the earth, which in Parsha group we were talking about, like, of all the metaphors, like dust of the earth. But nevertheless, there's a little bit later, sometime later, in fact, this is what the translation says, the word of Hashem came to Avram in a vision, and he said, "Fear not, Avram, I am a shield to you, your reward shall be very great." So the first thing is when I see God telling Avram, "Fear not," I assume that means that Avram is afraid. So I have some sense of how Avram's doing, which is for whatever reason he's being met in this place of some fear. So God's trying to maybe comfort him. "Fear not, I am your shield, your reward shall be very great." And Avram kind of loses it. He says, "God, what can you give me, seeing that I shall die childless, and the one in charge of my house is Eliezer." Eliezer, like his steward. And he continues, "Vayomer Avram hein." Avram keeps going, and he says, "Since you have granted me no offspring, my steward shall be my heir. Li lo natata zera." Strong words coming from Avram. Interesting also this repetition, like you can feel him pretty worked up about this whole thing. He's like, "You were promising me children, but I'm old, and you haven't given me children. This clearly isn't happening." And it's notable that he doesn't say, "You don't seem to be giving me," he says, "I am not going to have children." That's what he's saying here. I shall die childless. I am going to die childless. Again, we have a midrash that comes to bring us, I'm going to say one more thing first, which is how God responds, which is quite beautiful. God says, first of all, you will have an heir. I'm going to clarify, this is going to happen. But then, Vayotzei oto achutza, God took Avram outside, Vayomer, habetz na hashamayma, and said, "Look up at the sky, uspor hakochavim im tuchal, and count the stars, if you can, if you even can. Lisporotam. Veomer lo, ko yezarecha. So shall it be with your offspring." And then what happens? Vehemin b'Hashem. And Avram believes in God. Avram has his trust and faith restored in God. So what happened? What was this shift? I can kind of see it, like looking up at the stars does shift things. But what really is going on here? Again, we have a midrash to fill in some of the narrative, the actual dialogue of what's happening. There's a midrash that adds a little bit of dialogue. This is from the Talmud, from Masechet Shabbat. And it says that what Abraham was really saying was, "Master of the universe, Rabbono shel Olam, I looked at my astrological map. And according to the configuration of my constellations, I am not fit to have a son." So Avram, it's picking up on the fact that Avram didn't say, "I don't seem to be having a son." Avram said, "I am not going to have children." So the Midrash is like, yeah, because he came from this world of astrology, which he did. He came from, we know, he was an idol worshiper before. That's the whole culture he came from. And what is idol worship but this kind of fixing things in space, fixing idols in space? And here he is doing the same thing in time. The future is determined. We know what the future is going to be like. Change is slow and change is hard. For a person to change, to go from being part of this whole culture into something totally different, which is this trust in God, that takes time. So he's kind of figured it out with the idols, but he's still working on it with the time thing, it seems. And so what does God say? God says, in this midrash, God says, "Get out of your astrology. Say mi'itz tagninut." And it's the word "say" is the same word as hayotzeo to achutza. So he took him outside. When it says God took him outside and said, "Look up into the heavens," that's what the Torah says. God took Avram outside and says, "Look up." He was both taking him outside, but he was also taking him outside of this conception that the future is determined and that the future is fixed. And then what does God say? He says, "Count the stars if you can." You can't even count the stars. Why do you think you can tell the future off of them? You can't even count them. They're way too vast. The future is way too vast for you to have any idea what's going to happen. Ve'emin b'Hashem, and Abraham believes him. which is amazing because what does it mean then to believe in God? Ve'emin b'Hashem. To believe in God then means to not know. It means to believe in not knowing. It means to let go of thinking you know. And we do this all the time. We think we know the future. All the time. I do this in my head all the time without even noticing it. That I have something that I'm worried about, and then I kind of act as if that's what's going to happen. Or even the sense of despair. Like, what is despair but thinking that we know what's going to happen? And so God is saying, we don't know. And that can be very helpful, because sometimes I say this to myself when I'm in these moments of like, whatever it is that I'm afraid that's going to happen, whatever that thing that I'm afraid is going to happen is, for sure 100% that's not what's going to happen. No way. There's just no chance, because it's just way that probability is way too small. Because I have some specific idea in my head of what my fear is, and something else for sure is what's going to happen. It might not be good. We don't know. But it's going to be something else, and I find that very comforting in those moments. And surprising. It's interesting that it's surprising. It's like, oh, yes. So obvious, and yet it can be so, of course, we don't know. And in that place, what is there but hope? What can there possibly be except for hope? So to not know, to not go to the place of despair, which is a kind of knowing, and then to just hold in the not knowing, like almost inherent in that somehow there is just hope. Just believing, just trusting, just having faith. And Avram, sure enough, does this. I just want to offer one more kind of layer onto this as I close this out, which is to say that this kind of way of looking at the future as unknown, I think is very Jewish in this sense. But we also do a different thing in Judaism with the future, which I think we don't just see the future as like just up at the stars, just this kind of linear thing that goes out. Like in Jewish time, the future is also cyclical. Like there is also a coming back that happens in Jewish time. I don't know what next fall is going to be like, but there will be another fall. And that's actually also been one of the things that's been really helpful in kind of helping me let go of fall this year. It's like, okay, next fall. I don't know 100% that I'll be there, but I can be pretty sure there's going to be a next fall. I don't know what next Sukkot is going to bring, but we can be pretty sure there's going to be another Sukkot. And these patterns, like we do this kind of ritual repeating is something that is we just bake into our sense of identity and our sense of knowing and our sense of kind of being in the world as Jews, as we just repeat things over and over and over as a way to kind of remind ourselves, okay, we come back. These things come back. Avram goes down to Egypt knowing that he's going to come back. And every single thing that we're doing is in that sense. And also these stories, as you notice, there's so much repetition. All these characters are just repeating the mistakes of the people who came before them. And we see this over and over again to remind us, yes, we can look up the stars, and the future is as vast as those stars and as uncountable as those stars. And yet somehow at the exact same time, there's also something that we can trust in, something to return to, something to come back to. I hope that these words are of some comfort and some usefulness to you as you are going out into the unknown.